All right, guys, it is officially Memorial Day weekend in Major League Baseball. And you know what that means. We can finally start looking at the standings seriously because baseball people always say, don't look at the standings until Memorial Day. And honestly, this season's complete chaos. The Tampa Bay Rays look like the best team in the American League. The Atlanta Braves are destroying everybody. The White Sox are somehow good. The Mets are still trying to climb out a disaster start. And teams like the Tigers, Mariners, Astros, Red Sox, and Orioles have all been massive disappointments. So today, we're breaking it down. The biggest surprises in the MLB, the most disappointing teams, who's real, who's fake, which playoff teams will collapse, and which teams could still save their season. So if you like MLB content every single day, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like, and let's talk some baseball. First off, the biggest story in baseball right now might honestly be the Tampa Bay Rays. Like, what is happening? This team was supposed to finish near the bottom of the AL East. Most people thought, okay, cool, the Yankees are going to run away with this division. Instead, the Rays are 33 and 15, and since April 21st, they've gone 22 and 5. Their pitching has been ridiculous. Their offense puts pressure on everybody. They run the bases well, they make contact, they hit for power, and now they suddenly look like one of the most complete teams in baseball. And honestly, this is classic Rays baseball. Every few years, people count them out, and then suddenly they become one of the smartest organizations in the sport again. And what's scary, they don't even have some massive payroll. That's what makes this season so crazy. Because when you look around baseball, a lot of the richest teams are struggling bad. The Mets, underachieving. The Astros, a disaster. The Red Sox, messy. The Giants, terrible. Meanwhile, smaller payroll teams are thriving. You got the Rays, the Brewers, the Guardians, and the Cardinals. Now, speaking of dominant teams, we have to talk about the Braves because Atlanta looks terrifying right now. They are 34 and 16. They have the best record in baseball. Everything about this team screams World Series contender. Matt Olson is mashing again. The pitching staff is nasty. The lineup is deep. They have stars everywhere, and they're doing this even with injuries. They still feel unstoppable. That's how talented this roster is. When we compare Atlanta to the rest of the National League, there's honestly a gap right there. The Dodgers are still dangerous. The Brewers are legit. The Cubs have surprised people. But Atlanta just feels complete. And if they stay healthy, this could absolutely be a 100-win team. Maybe the only 100-win team. Now let's talk about one of the weirdest stories in baseball. Chicago White Sox. Yes, the White Sox. The team that lost 121 games recently. They are now sitting around playoff conversations. A huge reason is Musaka Murakami. This dude has completely changed that franchise. Home runs, walks, big moments, energy, swagger. But here's the question. Is this sustainable? Because a lot of analysts still think the White Sox eventually fall apart. And honestly, I get it. The pitching depth still isn't amazing. The roster still has flaws. And asking a young breakout team to survive 162 games is hard. Now, on the other side, we got to talk disappointments. And there are a lot. Let's start with the Tigers because this season completely collapsed. Coming into the year, Detroit looked loaded, led by Tariq Skubal. There's young talent everywhere. Huge expectations, then boom, everything went wrong. The offense struggled, the losses piled up, and Skubal underwent elbow surgery. And now they're 21 and 33. Detroit might be one of the biggest trade deadline stories in baseball. Now, another massive disappointment, the Seattle Mariners. And honestly, this one shocked me because I thought Seattle was going to dominate the AL West. I thought they could potentially make it to the World Series. Their pitching looked elite. Their roster looked balanced. And after last season, it felt like they were ready. Instead, they struggle all year. Kyle Raleigh has been hurt and underperforming. A bunch of hitters are below 200. And somehow they haven't taken advantage of one of the weakest divisions in baseball. They still might win a division. That's how mediocre the AL West has been. But man, Seattle has absolutely wasted the opportunity so far. Now let's talk about my Mets because somehow this team is still alive. And honestly, a few weeks ago, it looked over. The offense was dead. The pitching was shaking. Everybody was hurt. Now suddenly the young guys are injecting life into this team, led by A.J. Ewing and Carson Bench. These kids are bringing energy. And Juan Soto finally looks more comfortable too. The Mets offense honestly look way more athletic right now. But the problem, the pitching. Losing Clay Holmes was brutal because outside of Holmes, the Mets starters have struggled bad. And that's the issue. Can the offense carry them long enough to stay alive? But right now, they're still climbing out a huge hole. Now let's talk about the playoff teams that might not survive. First team to come to mind, the Padres. The Padres scare me. I know they won games. I know their record looks solid. But when you really look deeper, there are warning signs everywhere. The offense has underperformed. The run differential is weak. The rotation has issues. They've been surviving off clutch moments. And if Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Jackson Morrell don't heat up soon, things could get ugly fast. Another team people are worried about, the Cardinals. Now, give them credit. They have exceeded expectations, but the pitching concerns are real. When your pitchers don't strike people out, eventually that catches up to you, especially later in the season. So while St. Louis deserves respect, there are still questions. Now, let's talk about the Yankees. They're still one of the scariest teams in baseball, and now Garrett Cole's back. That changes everything. Cole returning gives the rotation another ace. Aaron Judge is still Aaron Judge. Ben Rice looks like a superstar. Cam Spiller has been unbelievable. And if Garrett Cole looks even closer to himself, the Yankees immediately become terrifying again. But I want to know what you think. Who's the biggest disappointment in baseball right now? Who's the biggest surprise? And which team do you think is going to collapse in the second half? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for daily MLB content. This has been MVP Baseball, and I see you guys on the next one.